here outside 432 Park. It's a beautiful night, but it is chilly. It's kind of cold. We are just touched down from Miami, Florida. But we will be back in Florida relatively soon. We should be back Thursday night. So we'll get started in just a moment. Good to see everyone. Thanks for rejoining us here in New York. We'll get started in a minute. Here we are back on Park Avenue. You can see 425 Park in the distance. Beautiful building. Doc 7 says Mr. Market was a bit depressed today. Interesting action. Now, there was a lot of interesting movement today with Bitcoin, especially as it relates to our good friend Elon Musk. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but Tesla, I think, moved about $275 million worth of Bitcoin. It's the first time they moved it in a few years. We'll see what they're going to do with that. Maybe they're accumulating more. Michael Saylor also is set to acquire a ton more Bitcoin on the corporate balance sheet of MicroStrategy. So I think we're in for very interesting times, my friends, particularly as it relates to the price of Bitcoin. But anyway, we'll just do the quick audio and visual check. If you guys can hear us and see in 1080p, just give a thumbs up in the chat. And assuming that all works out, we will go ahead and get started. This is the Four Seasons Hotel, by the way, right on Billionaires Row, which is set to reopen very, very soon, which I'm excited about. Four Seasons on Billionaires Row. Now, today in the city was packed. Packed. My flight landed at JFK roughly 3 o'clock, maybe like 3:15. I was in the city by 4, and wow, packed. All right, it looks like everyone can hear us. No technical issues, no technical difficulties. So we'll go ahead and get started. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Walks in Wall Street. Today is Tuesday, right? Not Monday. Today is Tuesday. We are now back in New York City, my friends. It's good to see all of you. We're already off to a very busy week. Interesting action in the bond market. As you know, on Monday, the bond market was closed for Columbus Day. Happy Columbus Day to everybody. But the U.S. equity market was open. Stocks were open for trading, and today pretty much resumed back to normal. I should say the most interesting thing that we're seeing, which is really perplexing many of us on Wall Street, is the fact that the bond market isn't quite necessarily agreeing with the Federal Reserve. The Fed cut interest rates by about 50 basis points, but after that time, the bond market has actually been pricing in higher yields across the curve. Now that 10-year U.S. Treasury yield is over 4%, which means mortgage rates are back at their highs. 7 handle on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. The question is, after the election rolls around, assuming we make it there, I think we will, is the bond market going to kind of settle down looking out to Q1, Q2, 2025? It's crazy that we're talking about that, but it's true. 2025 is just around the corner. Are we going to see maybe, a 5 handle in the debt market as it relates to interest rates on mortgages? Maybe 5.5, 5 3/4. Who knows? But at the current point in time, there is a stark contrast between what the bond market thinks and what the Fed thinks. Now, we're also making our way through earnings season. We heard from some of the major banks, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo. We're set to hear from a lot of the boutique banks, and all of them are doing pretty good, really good actually. We spoke about this a little bit when we were in Miami. JP Morgan Chase, the Goldman Sachs, trading into new all-time record highs. Some of the more boutique style investment banks like Jefferies, Houlihan Lokey, Evercore and the like, those stocks are also trading into new record highs. The XLF ETF, which is the financial sector, broke out into new all-time record highs as well. So that's very encouraging news as we go forward, because I always say the foundation of really any market, right? And not just talking about stocks. I mean, if you just want to talk about the economy, the world would not turn without the major banks. Even though many of us, including myself, aren't major fans of banking institutions, those of us particularly who are in favor of Bitcoin and the like, but that's the, kind of the fiat monetary system we live in. Those big banks make the world go round. Jamie Dimon over there at JP Morgan Chase, the big guys and girls over there at Goldman Sachs. If their businesses are doing well, generally speaking, that means the economy is probably going to be doing well in addition to that. So, we're back on Fifth Avenue. Let me go ahead and say hello to everyone in the chat, and let's get started. Welcome back to New York City, everybody. Hopefully you brought at least your fall jacket, because it is quite cold, and it's a little windy too. Chris Thompson, what's up? I see Sunshine NYC. Thanks so much for joining. New England Crypto is here. Oscar D. Cheers, my friend. Brad's Brains as the XLF continues to cook. Massive breakout. And from a technical standpoint, if everyone just goes to TradingView, right, wherever you utilize, charts, whether that's TradingView, maybe you use your broker dealer for that, whatever. Maybe you have a Bloomberg terminal. I want you to look up the ETF XLF, right? Spider Financial ETF. And I want you to zoom out on a weekly time frame. And you'll see very, very clear historical technical pattern for the XLF. And if we could use history as our guide as we're crossing over by the Trump Tower, this is the Tiffany building right here. Trump Tower is right behind it. This could quite possibly be the start of the move in the financial sector. So go to the XLF, zoom out on a weekly time frame. If you go to our Twitter account or our X account at Walks Wall Street, I think I retweeted a long-term chart of the XLF earlier today, and it looks really good. Looks really, really good, and the fundamentals are corroborating with the technicals. Earnings have been really, really good so far. So, hey, Jack is here. What's going on? Now, I want to just kind of take note of something here. We're on the corner of Fifth Avenue and West 57th Street, and I see a lot of police barricades. So perhaps former President Donald Trump is here. Maybe there's going to be some event. There are some rumors circulating that former President Trump is going to be doing a rally in Madison Square Garden. At least I think that's what is booked. So I'm assuming, if that ever comes to fruition, security is probably going to be pretty tight, particularly around Madison Square Garden. I mean, could you guys imagine the traffic that's going to be in and around Herald Square, the Penn District? If Trump holds a rally there, they're probably going to have to shut down the city for safety. I mean, look what you have here, as we have our, maybe Trump's ordering a pizza or something. Everything's blocked off. Total police barricades. You see a lot of the DHS vehicles, maybe even some Secret Service. There's just a lot of security here. Yeah, Brad says, I've heard that he is going to do the Madison Square Garden rally. That's going to be insane. I think there was some politician that was just trying to, boycott it or get MSG to not hold it. I mean, I don't know. I think the city is going to be crazy in terms of the traffic. Cynthia Ava, what's going on? Nicholas, cheers. Alan says, yeah, it's definitely going to be a show for sure. There we have the Steinway Tower, skinniest residential apartment building in the world. But the building with the gold top right here, this is the Crown Building that also doubles as the Aman Hotel. It's funny because we were just walking down Collins Avenue in Miami Beach, and they're going to be building an Aman Hotel right there in Mid-Beach, the Aman Miami Beach. I've never stayed at the chain, but it's a very, very expensive, luxurious hotel chain. Look at those American flags all up and down Fifth Avenue. It looks amazing. Lark Park, what's going on? Thanks for joining. Peter's here. What's going on? John says, I can't believe these scaffoldings are still there. When is it going to end? Well, my big question is, maybe we'll cross the street for this, but usually one of the best holiday displays in New York City is on the corner right here, 57th Street and 5th Avenue. It's usually the Louis Vuitton building has like a really, really pretty holiday display. But the whole thing is covered in scaffolding this year, so I don't even know what they're going to do. Maybe they're not even going to decorate it. Who knows? But we'll see. I know I asked this already, but now that we have some more people in the audience, I think the number one thing, if we could like hammer our focus down to possibly one event-driven trade, I think right now it's Bitcoin. The way I was pounding the table about gold, as gold was kind of breaking out of its space, and I wrote that article, and I said, hey, it's go time for gold. I think it's go time for Bitcoin right now. Like this is the moment, for sure. The moment for sure. Now there was some interesting movements, two in particular. One of which being Tesla, Elon Musk, moved about $275 million worth of Bitcoin, or maybe it was $250 million. It was at least $250 million to a different wallet. Now I don't know if that means they're planning to liquidate that. I don't know. Secondly, Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy, which now is pretty much just like a Bitcoin ETF. I mean, they've loaded so much Bitcoin on that balance sheet that the company is literally a Bitcoin ETF. I think he's going to take some more cash to buy more Bitcoin with it. So look at the chart of Bitcoin. This is a massive cup with handle pattern, and everything that we've been talking about. Oh, speaking of scaffolding, John was just talking about scaffolding. Look at the University Club. This is such an amazing building. 3 West 54th Street. University Club in Manhattan, the whole thing is going to be covered in scaffolding. They're just putting it up right now. Look at that. That's a bummer because this building looks really nice during the holidays. Anyway, yeah, just keep your eye on the digital asset. As we look forward to 2025, we're going to be having a new administration, right? Or maybe the same administration. You could argue that, potentially Kamala Harris has always been running the show. There's going to be more deficits, more spending, more debt, while you have the two largest central banks in the world, the Federal Reserve here in the United States, and the PBOC in China, easing massively. So you have a few factors here that are going to be very positive for gold, I think precious metals in general, and Bitcoin. More deficits, more spending, and a new bull market in global liquidity. If you go to, what's it called? I'm blanking on the name. I think it's slickcharts.com. Slickcharts.com. SLICK charts, CHARTS.com. You can actually look at a live chart of global liquidity, and we are just emerging into what I like to call a new bull market. Money supply, M2 money supply continues to climb. I think that provides tailwinds for gold. I think it provides tailwinds for Bitcoin. And I think if we've been positioned in those two kind of realms, I think perhaps we'd be feeling quite well going forward. Any thoughts on that? Anybody agree, disagree? Because from my standpoint, I don't see us solving the debt problem anytime soon, regardless if Kamala gets elected or former President Donald Trump. It's funny, I always laugh, and I know we usually don't dive too deep into politics, but a main bull thesis for precious metals is the political environment. Who controls the fiscal side of the house, right? Our politicians control the fiscal side of the house, right? The monetary policy side of the house is controlled by the Federal Reserve. So if people, right, I'll just make this one statement. If people think that a real estate guy is going to solve the debt problem, I think you got another thing coming. Trump is a real estate guy. Real estate guys, private equity guys and girls are debt people. They're debt. They love debt, right? That's how you make the big bucks in real estate most of the time. So I think, plan accordingly. Maybe get some exposure to those assets. Who knows? Speaking of the holidays, 5th Avenue East 52nd Street, this Cartier store, has one of the most beautiful holiday displays. It really, really does. I'm excited to see what they do this year. And 2 more blocks to the south, at Saks Fifth Avenue, I'm really, really excited to see what they're going to do this year for the holiday display. Who knows? Hey, what's up, Dale? Good to see you. Welcome back to New York. Jason says, Larry Fink, 20 billion BTC.
Okay,
Wait, what happened with that? Jason says, Larry Fink, 20 billion BTC play was locked and loaded. What does that mean? I'm quite curious. So Larry Fink, BlackRock CEO, did he say something today about Bitcoin? I mean, look, I will say one thing, right? And I know most of you in the audience actually don't like when I talk about Bitcoin. You can hate Bitcoin all you want. You could like it. You could think it's a scam. You could, think it's going to go to zero. But when you see these big macro setups like this, as Stan Druckenmiller always says, you got to get piggish a little bit. And those are the setups I'm seeing. I mean, we talked about the setup in gold ad nauseum as it was kind of coming out of its handle, and Bitcoin is setting up to come out of its handle as well. Now, let's talk about BlackRock for a second. Larry Fink has been kind of wishy-washy on Bitcoin. Okay, even going back to 2013, 2014. He has, I think we should take what Larry Fink says with a grain of salt as it relates to the cryptocurrency market, and I'll tell you why. Because he is fully incentivized to talk the book. Now on Wall Street, to talk your book means, you have a position or a vested interest in something. So you're going to go out and tell everybody how great it is because you have a vested interest in it doing well. Well, BlackRock now has approved that are trading right now. You could go buy Bitcoin ETFs, spot Bitcoin ETFs, by the way. And the custodian is BlackRock. That's their product. So of course, Larry Fink is going to get on the television and call up all his clients and sell them his product, which is the Bitcoin ETF. Do you think Larry Fink, right after they just launched a monumentous spot Bitcoin ETF, is he going to get on CNBC and say, yeah, Bitcoin sucks, don't get any exposure to it? Of course not. He has a product that he's trying to sell you. So watch incentives. I happen to agree, though, with Larry Fink. If he says get exposure to Bitcoin, I would actually agree. But take, he has a product to sell. At the end of the day, as he grows AUM, assets under management, on those ETF products, he gets fee income. And more fee income means better earnings for BlackRock and bigger bonuses for him. Hey, Action Kid says there's a Bitcoin obituary website which links all the articles where Bitcoin was pronounced dead. It's up to 477 now. That's hilarious. I think I've come across that. What's it called, by the way? Maybe you could drop the URL link in the chat. That's so funny. And it's interesting because, to AK's point, I'm sure those of us who have been, involved, known about Bitcoin for quite some time, I mean, the arguments for or against go on forever. I think one individual that comes to mind is our good friend Peter Schiff, but Brad's brain, what's going on? Says, Tom, you're describing Goldbug, my least favorite person, always trying to sell his gold to me while telling me how great it is. Yeah, I mean, look, everyone has incentives, but to be fair, I think in this environment, to have at least some exposure to gold, I think is quite wise. But I totally get what you're saying, for sure. Peter C. is here, says, question, Thomas. Why would anyone buy a Bitcoin ETF instead of a Bitcoin itself? Aren't ETFs regulated by the government, thereby eliminating the purpose? I think that's a great question, and I think that's the $1 million question of the night. If you were in New York City right now, I'd take you to Del Frisco's and I'd buy you a big steak, and I'll tell you why. So Bitcoin is not really anti-government. I'd like to reframe your question a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Okay, here it is. You are correct that buying these Bitcoin ETFs, in my opinion, and what I think everyone's opinion should be if you're a real Bitcoiner, kind of violates the only value proposition of Bitcoin itself. The value proposition of Bitcoin is to be an unconfiscatable asset, the only unconfiscatable asset in the world. And as JC in the chat is typing in the chat, not your keys, not your coins. So if you get exposure to Bitcoin by buying an ETF, right, you don't actually own any of the underlying Bitcoins. They'll tell you do, right? Because technically you own shares in the ETF, which the spot Bitcoin ETFs, they actually hold the real Bitcoin to back it, but it's whoever holds the private key to your Bitcoin actually has it. right? It's not like you can buy the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF and send Bitcoin to your friend in Europe or send Bitcoin to your friend in Australia or wherever, right? So in my view, I'm totally in agreement with you to the fact that if you think that there is any value in Bitcoin at all, the only real value proposition that I see in Bitcoin, and I'm just kind of curious what they're setting up here, is that it is unconfiscatable money. It's the only money that if you memorize the private key, your passphrases, like nobody could ever confiscate it from you. When you hear about these stories that, the US government confiscates Bitcoin, they're confiscating it from the exchanges, right? When you hear that, all these people have lost money because they, kept their BTC on different exchanges, that's not their Bitcoin being hacked, right? The media doesn't really know what they're talking about. That's the exchanges themselves being hacked, and the exchanges hold the private keys, not you, right? That's why, to Peter's point, if you go on Coinbase, right, and you buy some Bitcoin, and you leave it on the exchange, technically, right, if you want to get into like a real nerdy technical, Bitcoin conversation, you don't own that. Coinbase owns your Bitcoin because they hold your private keys. So what I suggest, if anyone does have exposure to Bitcoin, you can buy it on these exchanges, right? But then you immediately rip it off to something called cold storage, where you self-custody. It's called self-custody. So I agree. I don't want to... maybe if you're short-term trading for speculation, but if you believe in the value proposition, you probably should just buy it and hold the private keys yourself. But it's a very good point. That's a really, really good question. Brad's Brain says, I don't like any ETFs. They tell a story about the general market, but I never want to own them. I'll own individual stocks. Well, I would say that in most people's retirement accounts, including mine, by the way, if you look at my retirement account, pretty much 100% of it is just indexed to the S&P 500. Now, in my actively managed brokerage account, that's when I, have an actively managed portfolio to try to beat the market, to try to generate alpha, as they say. But, with ETFs, if you're just buying, let's say, like a cybersecurity ETF or a Bitcoin ETF or, a healthcare ETF, you really got to watch out for the fees, because some of these ETFs can have ridiculous fees. So-called the expense ratio. And just as compound interest works in your favor over time, right? If you just go on Google or Perplexity AI, which is my favorite thing to use ever, Perplexity AI, and you just type in compound interest calculator and play around with it, it's amazing, the power of compounding. But you could also do compounding in reverse. If you compound 2% in annual fee income over the course of your investment career, 40 years, that's pretty much millions of dollars you're losing to fees. So to Brad's point, a lot of ETFs have these very, very aggressive and egregious fees. So if you are buying any ETFs, you should probably look at what the expense ratio is beforehand. Here's Radio City Music Hall. Hey, what's up, Lee? Good to see you. Says the majority of people don't have enough money to hold a diversified portfolio using individual stocks. Brad's Brain says my 401k is also indexed to the S&P, but I'm talking about my personal trading account. Oh, for sure, yeah. Now, sometimes, in my personal trading account, if I don't have any, let's say if I'm exiting a trade or something like that, and obviously you would sell the stock to go to cash, sometimes I'll sell the stock and then just rebuy the S&P 500 if I have a directional bias on the market that I think it's going to continue to go higher, but I don't have any good individual stock setups. I'll do that sometimes, but most of the time I just roll it into a money market account, especially now. But I mean, if you think about now, many people, if you look at, if you go to the St. Louis Federal Reserve website and you look at balances in money market funds, they're at all-time record highs, I think, or maybe just a little bit off an all-time record high. That's because you could park your money in a money market account and probably make 5%, maybe even a little bit more now. So I mean, think about if you are, running some decent size, like, as an individual investor, if you're running like, 10 plus mil, $10 plus million compounds out massively, risk-free in a money market account at 5%. Not bad. Stephen Bate, good to see you. This building over here is Neuberger Berman, 1290 Avenue of the Americas. This is a very big asset manager on the street. And this is one of my favorite views of all New York City. Radio City Music Hall, Rockefeller Center. Pretty soon they're going to be putting the Christmas tree right on top of Radio City.
She said I'm cool as fuck.
We'll stick around Central Park tonight, mainly because I gotta get back to the office later tonight. Hey, Michael G. This is Tom. Great to see you back in Manhattan. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You know what? Rocket Mob, I've watched that. That's an insane video to watch. Now, Rocket Mob, feel free to drop that link in the chat. That's an unbelievable video to watch. Just go on YouTube and search the first Bitcoin conference. There was literally two guys in the audience, and I think it was in the the ballroom of some junky hotel. It's just insane to see how much the space has grown. It's just nuts. It's just insane. Giles DeRoos has any thoughts on private credit? I would direct your attention to Daniel Loeb. I believe Daniel Loeb is a big private credit guy who just so happens to have a place at 15 Central Park West, where the former CEO of Goldman Sachs also has a really nice apartment. Lloyd Blankfein, which we ran into 2 weeks ago on the live stream, which is pretty cool. Hey Shane, thank you so much for your $2 donations. Can we see the World Trade in downtown? Yes, you can. I'll zoom in right now for you. Give me a second. So it's a pretty clear night. So you can see the spire of the World Trade Center. Right, if you look like where that McDonald's sign is, I mean, you can't miss it. It's perfectly centered on the screen. That is the spire of the World Trade Center, which is wild because that's all the way pretty much on the other side of Manhattan. But doesn't the city feel pretty alive tonight? It feels pretty busy. Now, when I landed in New York from Miami today, Like, I automatically felt the energy in the city when I got off the LIRR at Grand Central. Felt like everyone was back to the office today. Maybe it has to do with a lot of the major Fortune 500 companies forcing everyone to go back to the office. Now, speaking of that, I wanted to ask this question. Does anyone in our audience work for Dell by chance? This is 53 West 53rd Street. Now, the reason why I ask that is there was some kind of drama circulating on X where Dell used to be a 100% work from home policy, and the higher ups at Dell, Michael Dell and the like, dropped the ball and made everyone return to the office with 48 hours notice. Had their and this is alleged, by the way, allegedly, all of their employees were scrambling to find childcare, and when they were kind of freaking out, like, hey, you can't give us 48 hours when we're used to working remote, the company said, well, if you need childcare, use your PTO time and you can get your kids and figure that out. I think that's a very brash way to do it. I think since our world has really converted to a work from home hybrid environment, if you're going to convert back to 100% in office, that's totally fine. You got to give your employees a little bit more than 48 hours notice to do that. Maybe a month, you could start the policy. Say, hey, come November 1st, we're going to be in the office 5 days a week. You have 30 days to kind of prepare. 48 hours, I mean, people, with kids, they structure their lives differently. It just seems a little bit crazy. So, first question is that true? Does anybody here work for Dell or know anybody who does? And what is the policy at your company? Adam Lukes is when you want to trim staff without paying them out, that's what you do. DC322 says 48 hours notice. I'd rather give them 3 weeks notice. Mark Francis 076 says I was work from home 16 years, I'd never go back. Jack says why report to work sounds easy. I don't know. I think it's a little kind of crazy to you kind of got to roll it out in stages. Anyway, that's my kind of thoughts on it. Sabrina Fair, what's going on? Yeah, Mikey G says wait till November 5th. Yeah, let's wait till that election is over. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Phil is here. Says hello, Tom. Planning on taking my family to New York for the first time next summer. Wow, that's awesome. Hopefully the hotel rates will come down a little bit. This winter, this holiday season, hotel rates in New York City are supposed to be at their all-time record high levels, and it seems like that right now. Something crazy like, 5-star hotel, $1,000 a night plus, even 4-star hotels like $400 a night plus in Manhattan around the holidays. It's really crazy. I'm curious to see what some of these hotels are going to charge right during the week of Thanksgiving, New Year's especially. It's crazy, crazy stuff. Wow, Phil says you're paying $500 a night. Insane. Well, hotels have been bullish. We talked about this. Speaking of hotels, you have Hilton right here. Ticker symbol HLT. Been performing really well. You also have Hyatt Corporation, ticker symbol H. That's been performing really, really well. And a lot of the hotel supply in New York City has been essentially taken off the market to accommodate the migrants. And the government, or the local government here in the city, has signed big government contracts with some of these hotel operators. $350 a night, $400 a night, with zero occupancy. I mean, think about that, right? So my concern with this, and again, I know it's getting a little bit political, but it does tie into the financials because it affects pricing and it could very possibly affect earnings. In a positive way, there is. Usually hotels always have some sort of vacancy, right? You're never going to have, maybe on a few select weekends or a few select weeks, you'll have 100% occupancy. But now some of these hotels, every night for the past year, and going forward in perpetuity pretty much, they're going to have 100% occupancy, and the city of New York is going to be writing them a check. So is there some underhanded activity going on here? I think there's some investigations into that already. We'll see. Maybe some hotel operators are getting awarded these government contracts because they know somebody, this and that, who knows. But hotel operators in the city are raking it in, especially the ones that have those contracts. Mikey G says, I know you probably don't deal with first-time home buyers, but what do you think of $25K for first-time home buyers? I do deal with first-time home buyers sometimes, but I think my view, bluntly put, is anytime you just give out money, it's inflationary. It doesn't help. And the market is what sets prices. The market, I'll say that again. The market is what determines prices. And the market reacts and anticipates and accounts for everything in its market price. So if you have a program or the government saying, hey, all first-time home buyers are going to get $25,000, as down payment assistance, I don't know what the official program is going to be. But the market's going to account for that. And you don't think builders are going to bake that into the price? Also, a lot of builders now are giving very, very aggressive incentives. So, generally speaking, I'm not for those type of programs. What I would be in favor for is tax incentives to build certain product. Right, to build certain types of properties. The government could set parameters in the marketplace to drive incentives, right? So if we have a housing shortage, well, then maybe remove some of the regulations that block builders from building, maybe give a special tax incentive to builders if they build this certain type of product. Those are the kind of programs that I would be more in favor for. Because again, going back to market forces set the price, economics 101, supply and demand, right? The more supply we have coming on the market, oh, what is this? This looks new, doesn't it? Yeah, this has to be new. I walk past this all the time. Huh. Interesting. We're getting a new place on 57th Street. Paris Bar. Rooftop lounge. I'm actually quite curious to see what this is going to be. An oyster bar too? Look at this. I think this will do quite well. You're right here on Billionaires Row. Lots of hotels here. You have the Thompson, which is also a hotel, but there's condos on one side of the building. Very cool. But anyway, yeah, the more supply that's on the market to satiate that demand, prices will come down. So if you incentivize building, if we can, for lack of a better terminology, flood the market with supply, things are going to cool. I don't know. I mean, anybody disagree? I mean, everything that I say is not right. That's just kind of my opinions. Connie says, what do you think about tariffs? So this is one of the things where I tend to disagree a little bit with a certain politician on. A little bit. And I'll explain my position. You only want to tariff things that we don't already manufacture in the U.S. Many economists, and I'm sure you've read many of these articles saying, if you put tariffs on anything, it's going to be very inflationary. It's yes and no. And I know it sounds like, you're playing the fence, you're riding the fence. It's more complicated than that, and I'll kind of explain why. Because tariffs encourage a conversation and negotiation, which takes time, right? So if there's a quid pro quo where we're putting tariffs on products that we don't make, it's going to encourage other countries to kind of negotiate on their side of the house too, to bring down those tariffs globally. And that is what's going to help long term. But it's the way it's been pitched to the American people, in my view right now, is like this magic elixir solution, which is just not true. It's going to take time, and you're going to need someone. If you're going to throw all these tariffs on, right? It's going to take a while for the end result, whatever that may be, depending on which side of the aisle you sit, or what resolution you want from these tariffs, because you're going to need to negotiate with other countries. You're going to need to establish new trade deals for a fairer playing field, and that's going to take a lot of time. It's not just like you throw tariffs on products and magically it solves everything. No, you're going to need somebody that's very, very competent to go in and renegotiate all of these deals. And I'll leave it at that. But I guess that's how it always is pitched in politics. You have a politician come in and say, hey, we're going to do X, Y, Z, and it's going to be the magic solution, and it's going to solve everything. No, it's obviously a lot more complicated than that, but unfortunately politicians pander on both sides. Let's start to head over to 8th Avenue. Look, I wonder what's getting out of Carnegie Hall tonight. Look at this. Wonder who's playing there tonight. KML says tariffs establish a negotiating position. 100%. Yeah, my incoherent, rambling diatribe that I just gave could be very simply summed up by KML's very succinct comment, which is tariffs establish a negotiating point. Which the other question is, do you think, not to get political, who do you think's a better negotiator to negotiate these points, right? It's not just going to be Trump. You're going to need a team of people. And do we trust that the people who Trump is going to appoint are going to be competent? I mean, that's not up for me to say. I have my opinions, but I think everybody has their opinions. So it could either blow back and backfire massively, or if you have absolute killer negotiators, which you're probably going to need to import them from the private sector, which maybe you can get some really good guys and girls that have experience in these specific industries to do that. I just don't have the confidence either way. Yeah, JC, if Elon is in charge of that, then perhaps, but you never know. I mean, you never know. But I kind of get it, right? I know that it has to be pitched that way, because if you pitch it in an honest, you kind of have to oversell it. I get it. If you say, look, this may work, it may not work, we'll have to throw them on, and then we'll have to negotiate like hell and rip their heads off. That's a harder sell. But if you just say, oh, we're going to put tariffs on it, it's going to fix everything, we're going to take in billions and billions and billions and billions and billions, that's like kind of like the dumbed down, way to sell it. But which is like stretching the truth. Hey, what's up, Ken Brockton? Welcome back to New York, my friend. This is Elon is losing money on Twitter, and Tesla is losing market share to competitors. I don't know. I think Tesla bottomed, and I'm very bullish Tesla. But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you may be right. You may be right. This is Central Park Tower, everybody. 217 West 57th Street. And then you can see 220 Central Park South. I like watching people grab taxis and cabs and things like that because if you think about it, speaking of Elon Musk, funny enough, the 1010 event was the robo-taxi event. In our lifetime, whether you like it or not, there's probably going to be no more like cab drivers. You hail a cab, like in those old New York movies, that's going to be gone. And it's just going to be a robo-utopia. It's going to be crazy to not see people like running into the street and hailing a New York taxi like you see in the old movies. It's going to be kind of sad if that doesn't happen. But maybe we could reminisce on these live streams, seeing people come out of Carnegie Hall, hailing a cab. Anyway. This is a nice Cybertruck. I know, Deese is just like the payphone, right? In those old movies. I'm not a big movie guy, but you know what one of my favorite movies is of all time? It's with Alec Baldwin. And apparently, this particular movie is really what set Alec Baldwin's career on fire and really catapulted him into being one of the best actors. Is it Glenn Ross? It's about sales guys, right? It's selling real estate. And it's that really, really famous, always be closing. Always be closing. That's my favorite scene in any movie ever. That's such a good movie. I think the first time I saw that movie was in high school. Love that movie, man. And that was really good acting, too, by Alec Baldwin. Like, crazy good acting. It really paints a picture of, like, a stereotypical, like Italian, Long Island, like, real hard-ass sales manager. Anyway, I don't know how we got on that topic, but that is a good movie. It's a very entertaining movie. They don't make the movies like that anymore. They don't make them like that anymore. This is now Broadway. Yeah, JC says Tommy's from Long Island. Yeah, my parents went to high school with the Baldwins, Massapequa. So the Baldwins are from the same town as me, Massapequa, New York. Now, who do you think did the best Trump on SNL? Speaking of the Baldwins, right? I was watching, and I really never watch SNL anymore, but the most recent Saturday Night Live was actually pretty funny. With who is that actor that's doing Donald Trump now? I think he actually like nails it. I think he does really good. Ken Brockton says Alec Baldwin, hands down. Yeah, I mean, I was obviously going to say the same, but if you watch the guy who played Trump, I think last weekend, very good. Hilarious. And usually SNL is not really that funny anymore, but they nailed it. Anyway, let's make one loop around. What's it called? We'll make one loop around the circle here. Timothy Grace's Glengarry Glen Ross is a great movie, but it will put you off from ever starting a career in sales or real estate. You know, it's so wild because it had the exact opposite effect on me. Maybe it's because I'm crazy, but when I watched that, I'm like, oh my God, I want to be in that environment. I don't know why. But I mean, that would never happen. I mean, in 2024, no way. I mean, if a sales manager, was acting like that, I mean, it would be on the front page of the New York Times. And I spent a decade, I'm still in sales, but I spent a decade in tech sales, like very, very high, not high pressure sales, but high pressure in terms of if you don't hit the quota, you're fired. And it's not like you see in the movies. Now we have HR departments and they're not allowed to curse at you or anything. It's not like that at all. That's like way, way old school back in the day. I think the Gen Zs would probably have cardiac arrests if they were in that environment now. There's no way. Here we are at Central Park. I wonder why everything's roped off with these barricades. I think it was because Columbus Day was Monday. Wow, look at how unique this shot is. So this is a beautiful shot of the moon. It appears to be a full moon tonight. And you have all of Billionaires Row, Steinway Tower, 157, 220 Central Park South, and Central Park Tower. Beautiful night tonight. Just a quick reminder, everybody, this Thursday, if you enjoy these kind of financial conversations, we talked a lot about the real estate market tonight. We talked a lot about Tesla. Talked a lot about the XLF and all the major investment banks that are doing really, really good. This Thursday is going to be probably a longer than normal investor letter that I'm going to send out, because we're going to do a deep dive into a lot of these bank earnings and talk a lot about monetary policy, gold, and Bitcoin. So if you want to subscribe to our free investing newsletter, you can do so by scanning the QR code on your screen and punching in your email. It'll take you to our Substack behind the street. We'll send it out Thursday right as the market closes. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting piece that you are not going to want to miss. But let's go to 15 Central Park West and venture a little bit further into the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Hey, Robert Mayfair, what's going on? Always a pleasure. Reggie44 says, Tom, you should have a money type channel. I think what's going to be coming soon, which would be kind of fun, I think. We'll always still do the live stream Walks on Wall Street, because I also really, really enjoy doing this. It's fun. You get to see the city, walk around, kind of really showcase people what the real New York is. I think there's a lot of fear that's kind of pumped. People are like petrified to come to New York City. This kind of says, hey, this is live. It's around Manhattan. I want to visit. I want to come. I want to come here on vacation. It looks fun, which it is. So that's one reason why I like doing this. But we will do a second live show, probably live, which will be like kind of podcast format, where you guys will be in my office and we'll be able to go through some charts. We'll be able to, listen to some earnings calls, build some models and stuff. So that I am looking forward to, frankly put. Hopefully I can get that back off the ground, or get that off the ground. when I come back from Miami again. I got to go back to Miami on Thursday, and then I'm going to come back Tuesday. So, all right, this is the Limestone Building, 15 Central Park West. This is one of the most sought-after buildings in New York City. It's a beautiful building. Really, really nice. You get great sunsets overlooking Central Park. If anyone's watching the broadcast, maybe if you live in 15 Central Park West, if I lived in 15 Central Park West, you know what I'd do? If I had an apartment that's facing the park, I would put a time-lapse camera, leave it, make sure I would hardwire it. I obviously wouldn't have it on a battery. And I want to do a 365-day time-lapse of New York City and condense it into a 10-minute video. That would be insane. Wouldn't that be amazing? You get to see winter, spring, summer, fall, all the snowstorms, all the crazy rainstorms, summer. That would just be insane. See all the foliage. So if anybody could do that, if you have a really nice unit, just pop a camera on the balcony and do a 365-day time lapse of Central Park. That'd be insane. Hey, another Cybertruck. Speaking of Elon Musk. More and more Cybertrucks we've been seeing on the streets of New York. What would you say if you had to do a compare and contrast between New York City and Miami? Which city has more Cybertrucks? New York or Miami? I think New York is starting to catch up. Wow, Phillips's Cybertrucks are all over Orlando too. The thing is, they take up so much space. They're such massive vehicles. I wonder how that's going to impact if you're parking in a parking garage, because some of those vehicles can't fit on a lift. Check this out, right? If you're trying to put that on a lift, I don't even know if that's going to fit on a car lift. That's the thing. The more people get those, that could actually create a real problem in New York. But I love them. Steve CR says, I'll keep my Chevy. Yeah, most people, like I said, about 50% of the people hate the Cybertruck. But that's another reason why I think it's going to perform so well. And generally speaking, Tesla's going to perform so well. For those of you who tuned in to the, the 1010 event, the robo-taxi event for Tesla, what I did, I didn't pay very much, I did pay a lot of attention to the actual event, but I paid more attention to the reaction to the event, right? What people were saying about the event. And here are my conclusions. Okay? My conclusion is this. Elon Musk could have gone up there and announced that he's cured cancer. And people would have still said it's the worst thing ever. What a grifter, what a fraud, the product sucks. But what is also true is Elon could have gone up there and did absolutely nothing and apologized to the audience and said, hey guys, I know we were supposed to, unveil the robo-taxis tonight, but we didn't meet the deadline. I wanted to have the event anyway, just to personally apologize. And you would have had 50% of people say, oh my God, amazing. He's going to bring us to Mars and he's going to save the world. Oh my God, what an amazing innovation. Even though he didn't do anything, it is coming and it's coming. So that is actually very bullish, by the way. My good friend Jim Ropel, he's the CEO and founder of Ropel Capital Management. He said, if you look back at my investing career, my biggest winners were going long either innovative companies or assets, I'll explain in a minute, that are very polarizing. For example, Bitcoin. and again, I'm making a general statement. If you talk to somebody about Bitcoin, they're either going to try to sell you some Bitcoin, think it's the next best thing in the world, it's going to, be the new world reserve currency, and it's going to save everybody, and it's going to end the Fed, and it's, Bitcoin, 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 right? But then you'll talk to another person saying, oh, it's a total fraud, it's a scam, it's a pump and dump scheme, it's going to zero, anybody who's involved in Bitcoin is a fraud, it's ridiculous. That creates a market force primed to send asset prices to Mars. No pun intended in terms of Tesla. But it's true, because you have one side of the aisle loading short massively, and you have the other side of the aisle getting almost like cartoonishly ridiculous long, like the degens, right? And they will never sell, right? Elon Musk could announce tomorrow that he's closing down operations for Tesla, and people would still buy the stock. It's very interesting. Now, Tesla does have good fundamentals. Their earnings are great, their sales are great. I'm bullish on the company, but when you have that polarization almost, that's actually more bullish. Not a lot of people understand that, but that is very, very true. It creates for massive volatility and extreme power on these moves, and as a trader, that's how you make a fortune, right? It's so interesting to say that, but that is my assessment on Tesla. Uh, 456 is the Smith. Has a surprisingly amazing burger. Yeah, we just passed the Smith, actually. 64th Street, well, in between 63rd and 64th on Broadway is the Smith, which just so happens to be across the street from Lincoln Center. Anyway, if you guys are enjoying the broadcast tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We're going to venture a little bit further into the Upper West Side because I want to take you guys to an interesting construction site. Hey, Melissa 2087, what's up? Good to see you. But I don't know, I'll catch up on some of the comments, but do you guys disagree, agree? I mean, what are your thoughts? Ken Brockton says, Tom, I don't get this fascination with Elon/Tesla. Tesla is lowering prices and lowering forecasts because fewer people are buying the cars as Elon alienates his core buyers. I don't know if they've lowered forecasts. Now, I do agree with you 100% that Elon alienates some buyers. And I think me and you may have gone back and forth with this on the stream when I said, look, do you think, I mean, because there's no question, right? There's no question about the fact that Elon alienates many, many people. Now, Ken Brockton is not a fan of Elon Musk. I am a big fan of Elon Musk, but what I do agree with Ken on is I totally understand, totally 1,000% understand why people can't stand Elon Musk. I get it. I totally get it, right? The question is, does it matter or not? And let's say if Elon wasn't so polarizing, would that be more bullish for the company, or would that actually work in reverse? I don't know. Many of you may think the obvious answer is no. If he wasn't as polarizing and if he kept his politics to himself, his company would be doing a lot better and more people would be buying his cars. Maybe you're right. But I'm not too sure he would grow such a cult-like audience, if that makes sense. Because again, the people who like Elon and Tesla, to Ken Brockton's point, are obsessive over Elon Musk and Tesla. And I think to have that powerful of a customer base may be a little bit better than just, being a people pleaser. Like, you don't think of Ford Motor Company, right? You don't think of General Motors as, oh my God, I love Ford, I love GM. You don't really have GM super fans, right? I mean, maybe you do, but I bet half the people in this audience couldn't even name the CEO of General Motors. And I'm being serious, right? And that's not an insult. I'm just saying it's just like, it's irrelevant. But everybody knows Tesla. Everybody knows Elon Musk. It's interesting conversation. Anyway, guys, this is 50 West 66th Street. This building right here. Look at this. This is the new building that's going up. New luxury building, going to be overlooking Central Park. And the developer is Extell. EXTELL. And Extell is the same exact developer, Gary Burnett, who developed 157, who pioneered Billionaires Row. So 157 West 57th Street, also Central Park Tower, 217 West 57th Street. This is the same developer. And this building is going to be absolutely incredible. Look at that. Let's try to walk towards Central Park West and see if we could see some of the balconies. Because I think above the 25th floor, you start to have balconies overlooking the park. Alan says, if the CEO of Ford and GM were actively endorsing presidential candidates, I'm sure we at least be familiar with them more. I agree. But here's the thing, right? Many CEOs are beholden to the board. And they're getting paid millions of dollars. They're doing really good work. They kind of want to keep their head down. I wouldn't say that Ford and GM are innovators, right? They just make good products. But Elon Musk and Tesla are innovators, right? They are Silicon Valley cut cloth, right? And I kind of know this because I worked in tech. I know the type of mentality that these people have that work in Silicon Valley. Tesla, yeah, they're an auto OEM technically, but they're an innovative software company, they're an innovative tech company, and they move fast and they break things. Okay? Totally different culture than, union labor, General Motors and Ford, and it's just a different vibe. It's a totally, totally different culture. It's a totally different company. And Elon, I guess we could all consider, obviously he is a genius, but he's also hard-headed, but maybe you kind of do need to be a little bit hard-headed and egotistical to get to that level, right? There's no way in hell that Elon would ever cave to a board or pander to investors. On many earnings calls, early earnings calls in Tesla, Elon Musk would come on the earnings call and say, don't buy the stock. He's like, look, we don't care about the stock price. He would say that outright to analysts, right? He'd say, I don't want you to buy the stock. We are interested in long-term value creation. We are not pandering to Wall Street's quarterly moves. We don't care. He's like, if you, want us to build a company for the next quarter, don't buy our stock. And he's been very, very clear on that. There's not many CEOs in the world that would have, the gall to get on an earnings call and say, your questions are so boring, don't buy our stock. Like he's just a totally different animal, like that we've never seen before. Now, is that good or bad? I think it's good. Some people think it's bad. We'll see. This is Central Park West. What I want to do, everybody, is cross the street and take you all on a little tour inside Central Park, because you're going to see unbelievable views of Midtown Manhattan. So let's go ahead and do that now, after we wait for this red light. Oh no, we got the light. All right, let me catch up on some of the comments. Excuse me. Hey, Wayne McKay, good to see you. KML says America needs its innovators and entrepreneurs. Traditional CEOs are sheep. I don't know if I'd go that far. Like, you need a mix. You need a diversity and you need a balance in the world, right? Like, I really like CEOs like Jamie Dimon, but Jamie Dimon would not be a good fit for Tesla, right? Or Jamie Dimon wouldn't even be a good fit for. I think we actually have to go up. No, we can go here. Sorry. He would be a great fit for a bank. That's why he's at JP Morgan Chase. Traditional. You look at Jamie Dimon and you're like, yeah, he deserves to, he is, the face and the brand of JP Morgan Chase, right? He fits the vibe, he fits the culture. He's not like a Larry Ellison, he's not a Musk, he's not a Benioff, right? He's just different. He's definitely not a Mark Zuckerberg, bathing in suntan lotion and jet skiing on the water, right? Just different people. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and make this left into the gorgeous Central Park. Very peaceful, right? Totally different. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of like you entering a different room in a video game and it's like totally different, like everything gets like very awkwardly quiet. And we just took 2 steps into Central Park and it's like, whew, boom, new world, a new map in a video game. Mikey G says, wow, dude, I never realized you like a lot of crooked people. Crooked people? I think Jamie Dimon's a really good CEO. I wouldn't say he's crooked. I guess everyone has their own opinion. Anyway, Here's 15 Central Park West and 1 Central Park West from inside Central Park. Now imagine living right on Central Park West or Central Park South. It's the best. Take a quick walk before you go to sleep. It's awesome. Anyway, we had a pretty in-depth conversation about Tesla. We're actually going to be talking about Tesla a little bit in our upcoming investor letter. So again, look out for that. If you guys want to subscribe to our free investing newsletter, we send it out every other Thursday, right as the market closes. We talk about U.S. stocks, real estate, everything. You could scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email, and that'll sign you up for our Behind the Street newsletter, which is going to be coming out on Thursday. Hey, Alan, thank you so much for your very kind $5 donation. Says, have we ever seen an up-close view of Bernie Madoff's lipstick building? I'd love to see it up close sometime. I've only seen it in passing. Yes. It's interesting. We actually walk past that building, I wouldn't say quite often, but every time we do our Sutton Place strolls, we always walk past the lipstick building. I think it's on 53rd Street. We have one of our viewers owns a store, I think literally on the same block as the lipstick building. It's called Chase the Fox. If you're visiting New York City, make sure you check out that store. It's called Chase the Fox. It's pretty cool. And it's on the same street as the lipstick building. And if you're visiting New York and you want to go to a very kind of low-key, I wouldn't say hipster-esque, more like jazz bar, speakeasy, go ahead and check out Tomi Jazz, Tomi Jazz, which is on the same street as the lipstick building. And that's an awesome spot. But just be warned, you're probably going to have to wait in a really, really long line to get in. But that is an epic place. Cynthia Ava. Got it. But what do you guys think about Central Park at night? But Alan, thank you, by the way, for that generous donation. We will go by the lipstick building maybe tomorrow night. Might as well cruise around Sutton Place before we have to go back to Miami. But this is 432 Park Avenue here. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, oh, this is a really cool shot. The moon is literally right on top of Steinway. And Madoff was a massively respected guy on Wall Street. And to think that he defrauded that many people, it's just, oh my God. Greed is a very interesting thing. But, I'd like to think I would never be the person to get so greedy where Like you knowingly like are okay with just destroying people's lives. It's insane. It's crazy. Well, that's kind of like a sociopathic tendency, right? No empathy. You kind of don't think like that. Sociopaths, their brains are wired totally different. They're not like, I'm running this Ponzi scheme. I built this trust and this relationship with this guy or this family. They're going to write me a check for this money. And I know that in 10 years, when this thing collapses, their retirement account is going to go to zero and I'm going to destroy their life. They don't have that kind of thought process, obviously, which is very scary to think that people are out there in this world like that. But I guess there are. Think about Sam Bankman-Fried. Apparently, SBF is in the same jail as P. Diddy right now. I don't know if that's fake news or not. I saw that on X. But the good news about SBF and the FTX scandal is that people are going to get their money back. Thankfully, thank God. Now here's an interesting question, because we're getting to the end of the stream. Here's an interesting question. And it's a very thought-provoking question. And here's the question. Now that we know that people are going to get their money back, do you think that Sam Bankman-Fried still deserves to be in jail for 25 plus years, whatever it is? What do you think? Obviously no wrong answers. But if nobody is going to lose money in this thing, if everyone is going to get their money back, do you think that he deserves to go to jail for life still? Yes or no? And I'll give you my take. So I'm seeing yes. Yep, Ken Brockton says yes, it's all in the intent. That's kind of what I was going to say. Cruz is a wrong answer. He would be no. I don't know. I think you could probably, if a good lawyer could probably make an argument to say, look, nobody lost any money. He learned his lesson. He doesn't need to rot in jail forever. So I think we only got one no, right? Yeah, Reg 44 says make an example of him. Allen's intent, absolutely, he could rot. That's generally how I feel. But also, let's kind of play devil's advocate just for fun. And I'll explain the position, right? It's undeniable that SBF and all of the other employees at Alameda, FTX, are super smart geniuses. We could all agree on that. That doesn't forgive anything that they've done. I still believe that they should have punishment or be in jail. But I almost think that we should be able to capitalize off of what they've done. Are you following me? And let me explain my position. If we just have Sam Bankman-Fried rotting away in a jail cell, that's going to cost what? Taxpayers $200,000 a year? And the guy's a genius? What if we say, okay, you're going away for 10 years, but the caveat is you could choose to get out in 10 years or you could spend the rest of your life in prison. But if you get out in 10 years, you're going to dedicate the rest of your life. You'll get a salary, you'll work for the government. It's a public service. You're a computer science guy. You'll work for the FBI, in cybersecurity, tracking down crime. You're going to work for us now. You're going to work for the public. You're going to work for the people that you tried to defraud. You're not just going to get off easy and lounge away in a jail. You're going to come and you're going to work and you're going to be productive. This way we extract value out of him. And I think that's happened before in some cases. Like a lot of these Silk Road people, they've gone to jail. I mean, I think Ross is still in jail for life, which is insane. I think he should get pardoned. Anyway, but these are smart people. We need to be getting value out of them. Ken Brockton says, I agree, Tom. Let them work for the FBI, but from a prison cell? Maybe. I don't know. You would obviously want to put parameters on those people, right? You can't trade in the financial markets, you can't raise money, you can't start a company, but you can do government work that you're contracted for, supervised, and you can get out in 10 years. I don't know. I just don't know if, having them sit in, or having SPF sit in jail forever is, like, are we getting value out of that? Right? No, we're just paying for it. I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. I see both sides. But I definitely agree with the premise that he should be in jail for a very, very long time. Chinook wins. Sam has a criminal mind. Chances of him rehabilitating is nil, in my honest opinion, so definitely lock him up. Now, I think this also stems into a larger conversation to reforming the criminal justice system. Now, when I was in college, I actually took a really interesting course, and I forget the name of the course. I remember the course code name. It was CJBS 420. And we studied this one professor, I should say the work and the research of this one professor at Columbia University. His name is Dr. Carl Hart. And his work and his research kind of changed my mind a little bit on I think that guy was taking a piss, and some of his piss literally almost went on me. That's a problem. I'll let it slide. Yeah, we'll let it slide. Let's cross the street so I don't get too upset. But anyway, there's a really good book that this professor wrote. I forget what the book's called, but just Google Dr. Carl, and he really kind of changed my mind on a lot of the criminalization of drugs in this country. I've kind of changed my stance on, decriminalizing a lot of hard drugs and legalizing marijuana. And his whole premise is the following. It's costing taxpayers so much money to keep these people in prison, and it's also doing these people no favors. But if we can kind of transform, like a transformative justice system, where we focus on rehabilitation rather than punishment, that's going to be mutually beneficial to everybody, right? Because the prison populations in the United States just keeps growing every year. I guess you can consider it the prison industrial complex. I don't know where this guy's going. So if we can be maybe a little bit more compassionate, but at the same time shifting our focus onto rehabilitation, and it's worked in some other countries, right? You got to buy his book. I vaguely remember some of the stuff in the book. I got to reread it, but it was very good. It was very good. And do we really want, look, I'm the biggest free market capitalist you would ever meet in your life. I love capitalism. I love free markets. I love America. But should some things be for profit? I think it's an interesting question. Should we really have for-profit prisons? That could lead to severe conflict of interests. I mean, you're dealing with people's lives here, you know? Now, I understand for people who commit violent crimes and stuff like that, I totally get it. I'm not arguing for that fact, but I'm talking about, you know, people who got caught with, you know, drug crimes during the 3 strikes rule. You know, 3 strikes and you're out. Some people are in prison for the rest of their lives for, you know, marijuana. I just don't think that's helping anybody. It's costing the taxpayers a lot of money. It's not helping our communities. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit too like cushy, kind of lovey-dovey nonsense. Maybe it's practical thinking about it. Maybe it's not practical putting it in place. But there are some success stories in other countries without taking such a harsh punishment standpoint, but investing more in the rehabilitation. I don't know. Yeah, marketing videographies. Very few people change. Ask a psychiatrist. Professor Daddios is Tom, is your mic under your jacket? No, my microphone died, so we don't have a mic right now. It just ran out of battery. Wow, nice. Amy says, yes, I have 5% in my Fidelity money market fund. Very good. That's really good. I gotta head back to the office. Yeah, I gotta charge my mic. Here's 53 West 53rd. I know, Professor Daddios, it's coffee time. I could drink coffee at any time of day, for sure. Anyway, everyone, this was a fun stream. I'm gonna head back to the office. Just to kind of recap, we did a deep dive into gold, talked a lot about Bitcoin tonight, debated Tesla, bull thesis, bear thesis, talked a lot about the financial sector. If you guys enjoyed the live stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and if you'd like to receive all of our free equity research every other Thursday, just scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email, and this Thursday you will receive our investor letter. But until then, we will see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful night, be safe. Lots to talk about. See you at 8:45. Jack Joseph Hardaway, Dennis the Menace, Professor Daddios Steve, Reg 44, Stephen Bate, Alan, all of our moderators, thank you so much. Hal T16, TD Teresa Diaz, Jay New England Crypto, appreciate you. Blue Roo D, Mohammed, Patrice 2020, Mark, cheers. Welcome back to New York, everybody. Tata T. See you tomorrow.